Hello and Kia Ora viewers. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Strategy. Today's guest is a powerhouse in the world of customer relationships, Megan Cunningham-Adams, the visionary behind OnionCRM. We are solving complex engagement problems and a passion of helping businesses build meaningful customer connections. Megan is not just leading a product, she is building a movement around customer first thinking. Megan, welcome to Let's Talk Strategy. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
Lovely. Awesome. And I am especially excited about this episode as we will also be touching on potential collaboration opportunity between OnionCRM and StratMate and how together we might help founders level up their strategy and their systems. Lovely. So on that note, let's begin this wonderful session. As you know, we have 5 segments of question answer session. So the first segment is the origin. So Megan, my first question is, now what sparked the idea of OnionCRM to you?
Sure. So I'd spent the last 15 years or so working with financial software as a business analyst, project manager, implementation. I then went out on my own as a consultant, and I was contracted by a client to review all of their systems. And one thing that they didn't have was a CRM system. So I just went looking, Googled it and started comparing some options. Now, a product that I'd never heard of came up quite strongly in the features and benefits for cost, and that was Zoho. Like I said, I'd never heard of it, and to be honest, I didn't actually have a lot of experience around CRM systems either. But we selected that as the product, and during the implementation, I found it to be so user-friendly, customizable and easy to manage that after the implementation, I stopped being a general software consultant and set up OnionCRM solely to focus on Zoho because it was such a fantastic product.
That's good to hear. Awesome. Thanks for that. Lovely. And coming to the next section is what gap did you see in the CRM and customer space at that point of time, which eventually led to it?
Sure. So I didn't see really any huge gap at that time. Zoho already had other resellers operating here in New Zealand and in Auckland. However, I felt that I brought a particular set of skills to this business, and that was being a certified project manager and business analyst. Now, that meant I was uniquely placed to really make sure that we understood the client's requirements and that the delivery happened as it should, as software implementation projects still have a bad reputation out there in some respects.
That's awesome to hear. Thank you for that. Lovely. Next is, what's something about building a CRM platform people often underestimate?
Yeah, great question. So it's quite rare that a customer comes to me or a prospect with their business requirements fully formed. They might have done a little bit of searching on the internet. They might know that they need a new system, but they often don't have a lot of requirements beyond that. And it's up to me to help draw those out. So obviously I'm very happy to do that. But if I had a piece of advice for anyone looking at a piece of software, whether it was CRM or any other, would be to develop your business requirements. Now, some people will say to me when I chat with them about this that they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what a CRM system can do for them. And I do understand that, and that's my job or the vendor's job to let them know how we can meet their requirements through the clever use of technology. So they don't need to know everything, but they should have a really good idea of what sort of outcomes they want to start with.
100% agreed on that. Thank you, Megan. Lovely. That brings us to the next segment of our show, which is strategy in motion. So the first question, Megan, in this is, can you share a moment where you had to make a tough strategic decision and maybe how you navigated it?
Sure. So we're really good at what we do at OnionCRM and we're Zoho experts. And so recently I had to turn a project down because the requirements were much broader than just CRM, and I needed to turn that down because it was outside of my wheelhouse, and I think it just introduced too much risk to both the client and to myself. for me to be undertaking something that I wasn't 100% certain how it would work when it was delivered. So that's a strategic decision that I've made myself recently. But mostly what I'm doing is helping customers implement their strategy through the use of a CRM system and potentially business analytics and reporting.
That's amazing. And that's more customer-centric approach. So I definitely like that. But we take the next question. Now, what role has customer feedback played in shaping your roadmap?
So that's a really good question. So Zoho CRM and its products are kind of off the shelf. You don't need an implementation partner necessarily. You can download the software or sign up rather, it's all online, and take care of it yourself. However, in those instances, people can potentially run into a bit of difficulty. They run out of capacity or capability. So what I like to try and do is I can help people who've either implemented Zoho themselves or who are looking for an implementation partner to draw out those requirements. That really is the most important piece of work. But as far as my own roadmap is concerned, and this may lead on to some of your other questions, I do customization for my clients, even though you can get the product off the shelf. It's eminently customizable. And I do have 2 or 3 pieces of what I call resellable custom. So I've done it for one person, but actually the market is much wider than that, and it's available on offer to anyone else. So to be honest, my development roadmap is 100% customer driven. I don't do stuff kind of on spec, if you like, but if somebody wants it and I think it's got application in the wider marketplace, then I'll definitely look at introducing other customers to that functionality.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. Now, one correlated question to that, as your tool is more customized and customer centric, that means depending upon the customer needs as well. So in that case, what's your approach to prioritizing features? Because customers may have a lot of requirements that hey, we need this, and this. So how do you work with that?
So we come across that quite a lot, especially in larger businesses where you've got different departments competing for CRM resources and CRM spend. Ultimately, it's up to the business management to make a decision about the priority of various items. What I do is, where I can help out in that process, though, is to provide some kind of sequencing of these different requirements or requests, because sometimes something has to be done before something else can be done, and to make sure that they've got all of the pros and cons about a particular piece of functionality or a request, so that they can make good business decisions about which one to do next. But ultimately, it's up to the business because they are the ones paying for it at the end of the day.
That makes sense. And that actually eases the approach as well. So thank you for sharing that. Lovely. So that brings us to the next segment. In this segment, we are actually looking at some collaborative questions. And this segment is called the power of partnerships. So the first question in this is, in your experience now, what makes a great collaboration between platforms or founders, maybe?
Well, between founders, it's all about communication. Understanding exactly how we can help each other, and being prepared and committed to go the extra mile. So I have had a few collaborations with other businesses, and at the end of the day, we all want the best outcome for our clients, and sometimes that just means we need to give a little bit more than maybe we thought we did in order to secure a great outcome for both of us.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for that. Awesome. Next is, how do you think strategic alliances fuel innovation in the startup world?
That's a great question. So I'm investigating a new integration product at the moment, and hoping to be able to use it for a number of my clients. Now, this particular product, as I researched it, turns out it does way more than I initially thought it did. So I was looking for a partner to help me fix problem A or improve process A, but also out of it, I get the potential to enhance processes B, C, D, and E. So as a small business in New Zealand, I find that partnering with people who've done it already is way more cost effective for me than trying to do everything myself, especially when you've got a reputable platform, that's constantly being upgraded, maintained, enhanced by a reputable company. I'd much rather use that if it's going to meet my clients' needs and attempt to customize something myself, which will need, ongoing maintenance from us.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Thank you. Next is a two-part question, Megan. So the first is, where do you see synergy between OnionCRM and StratMate? And the second part is, how might a collaboration help both our communities grow stronger?
Sure. So, in particular, as I understand it, you're often involved with startups. Now, even though they're a startup organisation, they have similar requirements around capturing and storing data. And if you don't do it from the beginning, you end up with a gap. So sometimes business analytics and reporting requires a bit of history of information. You can't utilize it straight away because you don't have this history. So if we're not capturing everything from day one, we're missing a huge opportunity, because further down the line, when they do need this information, it's just not going to be there. So the sort of offer I can make to you and your clients, for example, is just to have a chat with them about their CRM and customer communication requirements, introduce them to the concept of good business requirements, and help them out throughout that journey. And ultimately, what that should do is provide both of us with a very happy client who wants to keep using us and will refer us elsewhere. At the end of the day, that's all we want, is a happy client who's getting exactly what they wanted at the price they were quoted.
100%. And that's one honest and beautiful answer that I can get. So thank you for sharing that. Lovely. That brings me to my next question. Now, what are some complementary strengths you think both our audience can benefit from?
Strategy and planning, I think, would be right up there. A CRM system is meant to, as I mentioned before, help customers achieve their strategic goals, or be able to report on their strategic goals. And now, I'm not necessarily the person to help a business define those goals. That sits more in your space or a business advisor's space. But once you know what it is that you want or you need to report on, then I'm absolutely happy to implement that or talk with you about it to make sure that your requirements are being met in line with your strategy.
That's actually amazing. And if Teams had the option of virtual handshake, I would have done that with you right now. So that's really good. Awesome. Lovely. So that brings us to the next segment, Megan, which is tools, habits, and perspective. So the first question in this segment is, now, what tools help you stay focused and strategic as a founder?
Oh, gosh, great question. Well, there is my Zoho CRM system, but really it's more people that keep me focused on my own personal strategic direction. I have my own business advisor, I have a CFO, and they're the ones that help me with my goal setting and making sure that my business is tracking in the right direction. So any kind of worksheet that's going to allow you to specify a quarterly goal and then kind of break it down into bite-sized chunks is incredibly valuable. But the thing is you have to do something with it after you've filled it out. It can't just sit in a folder or sit on your desk as a piece of paper. And in a very similar way, your CRM system isn't going to do anything for you unless you do something for it. Otherwise, it turns into an expensive phone book. So this is why it's really important to get people entering their data into the system so that it can start working for you.
What a valid response. Thank you for that. Lovely. Next is, how do you balance structure with flexibility when making decisions?
Structure and flexibility. So, yeah, another great question. So my systems analysis and design background is around the structured approach, or the waterfall approach as it's sometimes known. And I'm still really way more comfortable with that approach than I am with an agile methodology. I find that often when people are referring to agile, what they actually mean is ad hoc, which means they don't have any plan at all. However, let me talk to you about a client I once had, and that was Mazda New Zealand. And I needed to put a new inventory system in for them, parts management. They had 1.3 million SKUs, and we also had to interface with a mainframe in Japan. And it was massively complicated, and I was struggling to keep focused on what we needed to do next, because there was a million different things to be done in this project. So what we did, and I call it my Mazda methodology now, is we worked out, I guess, the minimum viable product, what it had to do on day one. And we focused just on that, forgot about everything else and all of the complications that everything else did, and focused on getting in a nice structured foundation for the system. And then in a fashion similar to what we were talking about before with competing departments, we then specced out the rest of the roadmap to get us to the end goal. And sometimes it was focused on their dealers, and sometimes it was focused on the operations team, and sometimes it was focused on the warehouse team. But in conjunction with Mazda's management, we continually were reprioritizing and delivering this additional sophistication that took this basic foundation and turned it into a mansion that everybody loved. So, we need to have that structure in place. Nobody wants a wonky database, but that's how we can also add flexibility into the program. We always need that roadmap, but sometimes it's okay to reshuffle bits and pieces or add something new in that wasn't there before.
Thank you for sharing that. I've got one iterative question that actually we've discussed that earlier as well. So in terms of flexibility, if the customer's requirement and the delivery may not necessarily match, in that case, how do you approach to resolve that issue?
Sure. So it's all about the customer's requirements, and that's what we have to deliver. Now, if we've done a good set of analysis while putting the scoping document together, we will at that point identify anything where perhaps we aren't able to deliver something exactly like the client wants. So in that case, we might do a little proof of concept to show them how it works in Zoho. If you're coming from some other CRM or you haven't had a CRM, you might have in your mind a particular idea about how a process is going to work. And somebody will say to me, oh, can Zoho do this? And I'll say, sure. But it's not the fact that it does it, it's how it does it that is sometimes important. So whenever we identify some kind of a mismatch in between a perception and the way Zoho handles something, we go to a proof of concept. And really, at the end of the day, it's once again all about communication, chatting with your client every time something like this comes up and working actively with them to find a solution.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for sharing that part as well. Lovely. So that brings us to the last segment of our show, Megan. This is an amazing episode so far. So the last round is rapid fire. Quite fun, quite casual. Lovely. So a few questions in this again. The first one is a startup that you are admiring right now.
Oh, a startup that I'm admiring. All of the ones that are making $1 million for whatever it is that they've invented. So these aren't recent, but there are two. One is Xero. Back in the day, that was quite legendary to have a cloud-based accounting system. And the other one was TradeMe. They both identified a niche in the marketplace and moved in really quickly to fill it with an offering. And even though there's other competitor products or similar products, they've both tried to stay ahead of that by continually innovating. And I just love the way New Zealand businesses really punch above their weight on the global stage, with innovation. So, yeah, good stuff.
100% agree. That's really awesome. Lovely. So next is most underrated tool for founders.
Most underrated tool for founders. Oh, that's a tough one. I guess in a starter, most founders are familiar with the concept of, a business plan. What potentially an underrated version of that is revisions. So things don't always work out the way we expect them to. And if I was to go back and look at my original business plan for launching this business, so much has changed about the environment that I'm working in, the specialities I've discovered. So I would, suggest that on a reasonably regular basis, possibly annual, and that's possibly part of your strategic plan, is to revisit that business plan, have a good laugh at what it was that you thought you were going to be to start with, but then keep redefining it to ensure that you're staying on top of your game and leading whatever market segment you happen to be in.
That's amazing. Vision board, business plan. That's really the best answer. Awesome. Thanks for that. Next is one word that describes your leadership style.
Energetic, I guess. I might, under other circumstances, and maybe you should ask someone in my team, I might say fiery. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I do get super passionate about Zoho, about customer service, about being the best. And I bang on about it quite a lot. So yeah, let's say energetic.
Love it. Thank you for that. And one last is, this is a very interesting one. If OnionCRM were a person, how would you describe its personality?
Interesting. So I'd probably describe it as somebody who is potentially a little bit OCD or even on the spectrum. We don't like to move forward until we know everything that we need to know about what it is that we're going to do. We love making lists and getting items checked off. And we're really hesitant to take that step forward, the next step, unless we know exactly what it is that we're doing. And that kind of relates both to our attitude towards customer delivery. As I said, we had that project where I didn't feel like I knew enough to deliver adequately. So ultimately we turned it down. But also as a business ourselves, I'm probably never going to be this massive innovator, or take my business to a global stage. But we just do what we do every single day, which is to deliver fantastic customer experiences and, the world's best CRM product.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing this. Awesome, Megan. And this brings us to the end of our show. Megan, it has been a real pleasure to having you over here. So your clarity, vision, and founder energy, as I said, is so inspiring. Megan, lovely meeting you.
Thanks so much for the opportunity to appear.
Awesome. And also absolutely excited about what lies ahead for both OnionCRM and StratMate, and the founders will continue to support as well. So thank you once again. Awesome. And to our listeners, for more such inspiring stories like with Megan, subscribe to Let's Talk Strategy. Until next time, keep learning, keep building, and keep talking strategy. This is Let's Talk Strategy. Thank you.